Hi, Laura.
Hey, happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday to you as well. Good morning to all the great owls out there. Wanted to start off the show. Some exciting news, Laura. Big announcement internally yesterday with you moving up within the organization in a very exciting new role. So I wanted to wish you a huge congratulations on that front. Our customers are absolutely a pleasure to work with, but also very lucky to have you here to be able to support them. So congratulations.
Thank you. I'm excited. It'll be fun continuing on with strategy, but building in some project management and change management. So it'll be good.
Very fun. I think that's the perfect transition into the show today here too. When it comes to being a social media manager, change management is the expectation, not the exception here with all the different things that happen across the networks. And some very exciting updates taking place across the board here. A bit more focused on sort of the MetaSuite today as we dive into a few. A nice small one that I saw pop up within my social feeds around Instagram launching and testing out a new native grid view for planning content when you are looking to publish there. So for those who haven't seen it yet, as you're in the Instagram app, you're creating your post, you'll have the opportunity to open up sort of that preview of what your grid experience would look like. We've seen this a lot with third-party tools filling in the gaps for this from an Instagram perspective, and it's nice to see this finally come through. And curious to get your thoughts on the update, Laura.
I'm a big fan. I love it. I was testing it out yesterday. I think it's great. I think sometimes, especially recently, people aren't as focused on curated feeds on their Instagram, but I think it still kind of exists to some extent. I know I personally like still having a bit of an aesthetic feed, so it helps you plan it out. Also, make sure that the image itself is sort of lined up properly and whatnot if you're not selecting a square image. So it's kind of cool just to be able to check in before you post. And yeah, I'm excited for it. It's a good option.
Yeah, I think the grid definitely a very interesting use there. I always see companies every now and again pop up where they have very smart strategies where they'll do like 3 photo uploads at once and really try and keep that consistent. And lots of fun things you can do with that format. So very interesting update there, and hopefully we'll see people continuing to use that. And even with third-party tools, it's a great opportunity when you're planning your content out and scheduling it out to be able to plan that in that grid format as well. Continuing on in terms of Instagram updates, a newer feature more for day-to-day usage, but Instagram Flipside being announced as well too. Love to pass it over to you, Laura, to get some initial thoughts here. Maybe tell the audience about this one.
Oh, big fan as well. Honestly, Instagram, been a big fan this week. They've been doing some cool things. So, Flipside is a really cool one that I noticed earlier this week or last week. And essentially, when you go over to your profile, there's now a little key icon in the bottom corner. And if you tap that, it'll open up sort of this other side of your profile or the flip side. And you can add certain friends or accounts to that, and they'll be the only people sort of able to see that content. So it's kind of like a Finsta, I would say. So I think it'll be really fun for, creators. I know myself, like sometimes you just want to share some photos with family and friends that aren't necessarily for a public audience, that are more personal. So it's a good way to just sort of keep up to date with people that way. I was thinking about it though. It could be a really interesting opportunity for brands too. One way, like if it's more of a B2C company and maybe you've got an influencer strategy, maybe you have a flip side that, is just some of those long-term influencer partnerships. You can communicate with them or like have some good content sharing going there. Maybe you have a flip side where you add your employees and you share some good sort of behind the scenes images. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for brands to have a lot of fun with it down the road too. But definitely makes sense from a creator perspective anyways.
Yeah, it's a very interesting update. I'll be curious to see how it plays out. My mind jumped to right away to the opportunity to do things like those behind the scenes, maybe that B-roll type of content that you're not always trying to get on that very nicely curated feed, but still is relevant and exciting to the audience and creates that more personal experience. I think in the big picture, we've seen this a lot, the rise of Snapchat again, channels like BeReal making moves in the space that we talked about last week of trying to create that more authentic, real brand experience that people can connect with and pull the curtain back a little bit. So very exciting update, and we'll definitely be keeping an eye on this one. Getting into some other platforms here from YouTube, announcement around some new analytics related to playlists. This one I think is quite interesting. YouTube playlists are definitely something that's evolved over time and seen a lot of usage when it comes to companies and building out sort of whether it's user training experiences or curated resources for different industries or customers. So I think this is going to be actually a great update, allowing you to see sort of in total how your playlists stack up, what that engagement looks like beyond just the individual videos. Curious to get your thoughts though, Laura, in terms of how companies should be leveraging YouTube playlists and how these analytics will help them make smarter decisions.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's just the more data you can get about what you're doing on social, the better. And this can be a good way to A/B test too. I think playlists are super important. A lot of companies I chat with use YouTube as almost like a housing sort of content library. So, if people are headed over to your YouTube or come across different video content, I think it gives them a really good opportunity to maybe drill deeper into a certain conference you attend to every year, or drill into more interviews if you're posting like leader interviews, let's say. So I think from a brand perspective, it gives you an opportunity to get creative and test out the different content pieces that you're publishing, get some good analytics and insights, help that drive your content strategy, and maybe not just think about YouTube as sort of this content library, and more so try and be strategic a little bit about what you're posting on there, or at least break it into playlists.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it helps. Often YouTube can be a little bit of a mess if you're just uploading videos and people are trying to find the ones that are most relevant, especially from a company perspective where there's probably different campaigns and topics you're working through. So we definitely recommend even just taking some time in an afternoon and group your content up into those playlists just for the better user experience and discovery overall. Last thing to chat about here, some updates in the Threads world. There's a lot of momentum behind this. There are some news stories over the past few weeks around sort of increases in downloads, people starting to come back to Threads, really dive in. I know there's a lot of hype for it a few months ago when it first launched, and it seems like it's sort of on this curve now where it's gone past the hype, and now users are starting to settle in and get comfortable with the platform overall. What's been interesting about this update, so for those in the know, Adam Minstory, the head of Instagram over there leading a lot of the work on the Thread side, does weekly sort of Q&As on his Instagram channel. We always recommend people to check those out. He's talking a little bit around how he envisions Threads and creating a different experience when it comes to engagement than some of the experiences with X or other channels that are already out there. And this to me really stood out because when you're building a platform from scratch, when you have the opportunity to really put some thought and shape it into what you want to be, trying to go against the norms and sort of shape that different experience is going to be quite interesting. But curious to get your thoughts here. Are you in that wave of people that are starting to come back to Threads overall, Laura? And like, what's your thoughts on the experience and the vision going forward?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because they're testing out a lot of new things, which is great, but they're also being cautious about not wanting to just be like X, right? So trying to differentiate themselves a little bit. Some of the content I was reading about it, they're saying they want to maintain sort of that positive aspect, and if they bring in, chronological feeds or being able to search certain keywords, they're worried about like spam coming in and people just using those keywords to rank, versus more of the algorithm approach where you're now going to see content that you'd be more likely to sort of engage with or want to be seeing. So it's interesting the way that they're going about it. It's also interesting because I think for a long time when Threads launched, I was like, okay, we need these things, right? Like it works well on X or Twitter. And so of course they should be on Threads too, being sort of that text experience. But it's kind of made me reevaluate a little bit and be like, you know what? Maybe not. We'll see how it goes without those aspects, even though I think they are bringing them in at some point. But it'll be cool to see. It'll be cool to see how they sort of differentiate it and reinvent it a little bit. So it's not just the same experience as X, but on a different platform.
Absolutely. And I think going back to the update itself around trending topics, like that's quite an exciting update.
Yeah.
What makes X so interesting is that real time events, those moments that take place around the world and the conversation that comes alongside it, whether that's big events like Super Bowl or the Olympics that happen, political events that are taking place. It's really a source to be able to see what people are talking about in those moments. So seeing this come to Threads as well too will help to shape that experience and make it a platform where it's not sort of isolated in these individual little events in time, but an opportunity to be a part of the world and the conversation taking place. I think a perfect transition here, Laura, into the strategy question of the day here, and one that's quite pertinent with some big events coming up in a couple weeks and throughout the rest of the year here. Um, so when it comes to these big global events, obviously there's a lot of interesting things that come along with it. Things like memes that go viral quite quickly, whether that's Rihanna from last year, things like Left Shark from the Super Bowl a few years ago, these types of viral moments. And from a social media manager perspective, it's often an opportunity to reach a new audience, be able to break through, have a little bit of a viral moment yourself if you look to be smart and take advantage of that. So I think when we think about the Super Bowl in 2 weeks or these bigger events later in the year, like as a social media manager, how do you go about planning for these? How do you go about trying to set your team up for as much success as possible?
Yeah. You know what? I think as much pre-planning as you can possibly do is the key, right? So like obviously things will pop up that eventually become memes and trends. Maybe set up some social listening streams, maybe watch the actual event and like have the like whether it be X or TikTok or whatever open beside you so you can sort of see what's popping off during the event itself. I think too from a brand perspective, it's getting alignment with your legal or compliance team too, saying, hey, these things are going to happen. This is a big event. We need a really quick turnaround time. So can we work together over the next couple days when the event is live and, the following day or two afterwards so that we can jump on some of these trends really quickly? Because I think timeliness can sometimes be a big factor too. So I think doing as much pre-planning as you can, getting, your trusty legal team on board with you to do those quick turnarounds is going to be a big one. Social listening, setting up those initial streams and just sort of having fun with it, right? Like enjoying all of the memes and other posts that people are coming out with and finding ways to align with it that work for your brand, I think is the biggest one. Like we've even seen with Hootsuite's account, right? Like with the Travis and Taylor and all those photos coming out recently. There's a lot of brands jumping on those photos of them on the field and turning them into memes. So it's finding a creative way to do it that works with your brand and your business too, and not just doing it for the sake of it because everyone else is.
Yeah, and absolutely, I think this will probably be the super social media bowl. We'll give it a little bit of nickname, but with the Taylor Swift element to this as well too. Like we've seen the impact throughout the year on that front. I've already seen a lot of content coming up talking about how she'll make it to the Super Bowl if she's doing the show in Japan and all the things that go along with that. But even just the impact earlier in the season, we talked about it on the show around the eyeballs that they've been able to generate, the social media impact for the event itself. Like this is definitely going to be one of the biggest social media events, if not the biggest social media event of the year here, and one to keep an eye on. So I'm excited for a couple weeks from now when we'll get to break down all the amazing content and trends that do come out, but also a lot of buzz and excitement in the air for this.
Yeah.
The general feel.
All you social media managers, get ready. It'll be fun.
To wrap it up too, a little bit of a highlight of the week to share here. I'm just going to open this up on my screen. But a very fun one here from the team behind Sesame Street. And this one came up on my feed, but it was a great little post that I saw about a social media manager who posted on Twitter under the Elmo brand, just a simple, easy, clean little tweet there that ended up generating over 100 million different views, tons of amazing engagement and reactions, funny comments from people like Chance the Rapper and other great brands as well. So wanted to call this out as just a funny little moment that I saw on the internet, and a really interesting sort of viral moment as well too. But would love to get your thoughts, Laura.
Yeah, I loved this when you shared it with me. I thought it was so funny and so good. And one of the comments, because I was reading through the comments, really resonated with me, where it was like, the fact that Elmo, this account is like growing up with its audience. And so a lot of the people responding may have, watched Elmo as a kid. And so it's like really knowing your audience and playing to that, but also being relevant for that long to somebody is quite cool to see. So I thought it was really cool and quite fun with all the comments there.
Yeah, I think it's a great example too of not trying to overthink the content you're putting out there. Even a simple just checking in with how everyone's doing can become a viral moment and a great brand moment as well too.
Totally.
So on that note, a great place to end the show. Again, congratulations, Laura, on the very exciting news there as well too, and wishing everyone a wonderful rest of the week.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.